So on the latest episode of the PCT Podcast, we are joined by Aldershot Town Academy Manager Ross McNeilly. Today we're going to have a chat around creating your own academy, how you support your staff as an academy manager, and progression. So without further ado, good afternoon, Ross. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Obviously, we're speaking now at this point where we're in the final week of lockdown 2.0. Again, I can imagine you're a very busy man, which we'll get onto later. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us today. How has lockdown 2.0 affected you in your role? And before we get into that, just give us a little bit of a background of what it is that you do.
Yeah, so obviously I'm the academy manager at Aldershot Town. We have age groups running from under 9s up to under 23s. Essentially, like, my job is to just oversee those age groups. I'm also the lead for the under 18, so that's what, I guess coaching is my passion. So that's what I do enjoy doing. In terms of the lockdown, the second one's been different. It's been harder than the first one, I think. I think in terms of the first one, it was a novelty, wasn't it? And then everything going online and staying online. And I think towards the end of it, certainly towards the end of the lockdown, with the amount of online stuff that we were doing, with so many staff on furlough, that's when I was in isolation doing it. That's when it became quite difficult, to be honest. Delivering the academy or working on the academy from my flat wasn't particularly enjoyable. Second one, this one, I don't know. It's just hard. Obviously, it's helped with the 18s and 23s keep going, but as I was probably saying to you before, you miss the kids being in. You miss the really young ones being in. I guess that's what gives you the real feel of it being in an academy, the games program, the parents. So not having all of the emails to deal with and stuff, as much as probably at first that it's fair enough, but it just sort of takes away the impact of what's enjoyable about it.
Yeah. And one thing I'm interested there that I picked up on, you mentioned there that you're the lead for the under 18s as well. How do you balance those roles then? A lead for the under 18s and overseeing the academy manager. How does that impact on your sort of daily routine and the time that you spend in those roles?
When I first got the job, I found it really hard, really, really hard. And I probably be fair to say that I struggle with it, really struggle with it, to manage that. But as I've got into the role and as I've sort of started to understand leadership, started to be better at delegation, and probably even the fact that having more staff in that as well, it's become a lot easier. So the under 18s are in really early, so they're the first group in. So I generally get up in the morning. I'll be in for 7:30, 8:45, and then they're in. So I'll deliver that session before they go into education in the afternoon in the morning. So then I've got essentially the rest of the day to do academy manager stuff. So so that's probably how I do it. But I struggled with that at first, really struggled. I couldn't when I was coaching, I couldn't focus and stuff. Really found it hard to focus, and with my phone and with knowing I had loads of emails when I'd come off the pitch, or loads of things to deal with. So I've got better at it, and it's sort of now my little respite that takes me away from the mayhem that is the job of an academy manager.
I want to park that conversation just there because there's lots of juicy bits that we can get into, and I really want to tap into that later in terms of around, when you first got the role at Aldershot. But I want to look at the career and how you got to becoming an academy manager, because that isn't something that happens overnight. When you first got into coaching, how old were you? When was it something that you thought, actually, I quite like this and I want to chase this?
So they're probably two different periods. I started when I was 18, 19. So I started as I moved to university. I started coaching. When did I realise that I wanted to do this? Probably 28, 29. That's when I'd sort of made the decision. So I went through 10 years teaching, of working in further education, working in football clubs. I say football as if I worked in loads, but worked in football clubs, and then probably the penny dropped when I was like 28, and I thought, do you know what, like this is what I want to do. So yeah, big transition from when I was sort of 18, and I just did it for a job, really.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to that saying: if you do something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
What question I want to ask here is that 10 years difference from, as you say, getting into coaching and realizing actually this is something I could make a career from. Is it teaching mainly that you were focused on at the beginning in terms of, obviously you went to university there? Is that something that you're like, right, I'm going to be a teacher?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like, and I went to uni. I coached throughout uni, so I did 3 years. Like, I worked as a community coach and did your after school clubs and stuff. I worked for Leeds in the community, and then left. And then I got offered a chance because I'd met someone within coaching to go and work in FE, and I thought, okay, I'll go and teach, and I'll do my PGCE side by side. So I sort of went to a college, worked with the head of football directly, a college just outside Leeds in Skipton, and then he was great. Like, well, he was great for me at the time. Sort of like a mentor, a fella called Di Jones. But I still wasn't sure. Like, I did 2 years teaching, and I thought I got to the end of it, and then I went into another job teaching in a different college, and I just came away from it and thought, you know what, I'm not quite sure whether it's for me. Not quite sure.
So am I right in saying that the sort of first paid role as a coach on that coaching journey was with Sunderland as the BTEC tutor? So you got to do a bit of teaching and coaching. Is that where maybe the balance started to shift?
Yeah, 100%. Like, so I lived in Leeds till like 26, 27, and had probably coached and taught off and on throughout that period, like worked as like a casual lecturer and stuff, and been in that environment. And then I'd sort of made a decision that I was going to go home because a job had come up at Sunderland, and I thought, I'll go home, I'll live at home, and I'll sort of like reassess what I want to do, really. And it's probably that period, or that move, when I did that job. I only did the job for about 12 months, 13 months. I was given loads of responsibility to essentially start and deliver new BTEC programs within the club. And I just sort of thrived on it, really. And I thought, do you know what, like I enjoyed like the sort of like trying to be proactive, trying to be dynamic with the role, trying to develop the role. And then as that was going on, I started to like, I watched some sessions within the academy, and I was, a lot of my friends who I'd played football with as well were now starting to get into like sort of football clubs and stuff. And I thought, I started to just sort of throw myself into sort of seeing what's the word? I said develop a philosophy, not my philosophy, but take bits from other people's philosophy and start to see what I liked. And then I got the sort of bug to then go, actually, I wouldn't mind now trying to implement this and trying to be somewhere where I can try and get that across, or try and deliver how I think the game should be played, really. And that's probably the moment when everything then started to sort of move from there.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to something you said there in terms of developing your philosophy. I'm really going to get into that towards the end of the question framework we've got. What was probably the biggest thing then that you took from that role at Sunderland, as a dual BTEC tutor and coach?
So, biggest thing I took, do you know, like in terms of like from the role, it was probably like the independence and the responsibility that was given, like to that would probably be the biggest thing I took. But in terms of like a sort of like eureka moment, a moment where I realised this is what I want to do, that's probably the biggest thing I took away from Sunderland. I did go, obviously I went in and watched, I think I watched them the 16s, 15s train a few times and stuff, and got a bit of a taste of it from there. But it was more the like sort of this is what I want to do. Like I know what I want to do now. And up until that point, I'll be honest, I didn't have a clue. I wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure. Like I just wasn't sure. And I just threw myself into it from sort of that period. But having that responsibility to sort of be dynamic and design stuff was something that really gave me the sort of bug to go, or the taste for more of it, really.
So you mentioned previously there that you've moved away from home to study at university, gone back home to reassess. Talk to us about the decision then to go and become a sports tutor and head of football in Guildford, almost the opposite end of the country. Was that a big decision to make to try and get that next step in your career?
You'd think it was, but I'd spent a year in Sunderland, and obviously I'm from there, and I don't people dig the town out, but like I loved going back, but it just didn't feel right, and it didn't feel like me, and I was in my head constantly like, I didn't think I'd come home, and I didn't think I'd ever come back and do this, certainly this early. So that was probably one of the big reasons I wanted to move away. And so me and my girlfriend spoke. I said, like, I'd like to go towards London if we could. We decided it was easy for her to get a job, but it would be harder for me. So we decided that when I got a job, would go. And unbelievably, I was applying for jobs for about 2-3 months, and I got a job. And I initially only went down as a lecturer. That's all I went down as. And with the idea in my head that I get down there, and then I'll go and try and get in a club or try and do something that I wanted to do. But it worked out better than that. Like, it worked out to where it was essentially a blank canvas, and this college had a football provision, but it was there to be grown, it was there to be developed, and it was there for me to put on it and put my own imprint on it. So like what I'd been thinking about for the last year is that I'd love to like have a team and try and do this, try and get my philosophy across, and this was my chance. So I sort of went in, and I was there for obviously 6 years, but over 6 years it had grown to be I think we had like 80 boys on the program, and obviously I overseen it, did all the coaching on it. Obviously I had colleagues who coached with me on it, but it was that thing that sort of it grown, and I guess that links into the last one, doesn't it? Like where I'd like that responsibility, I like being dynamic and trying to take something and drive with it.
There's a bit of a recurring theme here in terms of possibly someone say you like a bit of a challenge and something that you can get your teeth into.
Yeah.
One thing that I alluded to earlier, and I really want to dig into it now, is you're saying that you wanted to go into a role where you could implement ultimately your philosophy.
Yeah.
Now, during your 6 years at the college, how much did your philosophy change from the day you went in to the day you left because of the players you've worked with?
Oh yeah, hugely. Like, and we say my philosophy, like it's not really mine, is it? Like I've took bits from people's, and there's people I like, and I'd probably say like the best way to describe is I like the game to be played beautifully, and I like the game to be played in a manner that sort of reflects that. So when I was probably, what year will it have been? Like 2012. I came down here, so like 8 years ago, and I wanted to have a team that played out from the back, and I wanted to start to learn to develop a side that could do that. And then over time, my philosophy has changed because I probably know more detail, I know more things, but it's still the same. It's still like I like a team who dominates the ball and keeps possession, and that's how I like my sides to play. So it has developed, definitely, but probably based on detail and based on working with different people and getting a better understanding of it more than anything.
One thing I'd like to tap into
Yeah, go on.
Obviously, over those 6 years, you will have had a different type of player coming through on a 2-yearly basis. Would that be right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
So you've then had 2 years of building a philosophy that is adapted to the players, and then a new cohort maybe comes through.
Yeah.
How did you find that? Maybe trying to implement that philosophy with the previous group, or from the previous group into the new group, and what challenges was in terms of the ability of the players? Did that then change the way that your philosophy was, or did you stick to that and not deviate?
Stick to it. I'm a big, like, that's probably something like I'd say I always do. We laugh at work. Like I always say I'll die on my sword, and I stick to it. I stick to what I believe in. So like we even though probably maybe the level of players at first, do you know what's interesting? And I think back there is like probably it was easier to get the lower level of players to buy into it. And as you go through and get better players who come with different experiences, getting them to buy into it is probably a little bit more of a challenge in a way, because obviously they've got different things and they've seen a more variety of things. But as the level of player got better, it certainly helps your coach and helps you understand the game. It certainly helped me. But there's still lots to coach on it, and there's still like lots to do on it, like, and there's still loads for me to learn on it, like loads for me to learn. Like Bielsa at the minute, have you read much on Bielsa and stuff, or?
I've just finished his interchanges and rotations. So there's a little bit of study going on with him.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like he's out of possession stuff. So he's out of possession stuff to me at the minute is quite new to me. Like, and just trying to understand how he does that. And trying to sort of like understand why he does that. Like I find that really, really, really interesting. And I don't think I'm there to sort of be able to deliver or implement that in my own coaching at the minute. But I find that really, really interesting. Yeah.
I think the main question I want to tease out here is, does the philosophy depend on the player, or does the player depend on the philosophy?
So I would say, it's in my environment, where I'm in an environment for development and development players, I'd say the philosophy is the philosophy and it sticks, and then we fit players into that.
Okay,
that's how I would do it, and that's how I'll stick to it. Yeah. Like I know people will say, and that comes back to recruitment, though, doesn't it? Like the players we want. This is how we play, and this is how our academy plays. So we want players that fit into that. And if they don't fit into that, we need to coach them to fit into that. And I think that's exactly the same for the staff as well, by the way. Like, we want staff who can deliver my philosophy, or our philosophy even. And if they can't, or there's things they don't understand, I need to work with them to help them understand it and help them deliver it. And if there's things they want to add to it, or things they don't quite get or want to change, then we can talk about it. I have no stress with that. But I think it's important that the staff and the players are coming to buy into the philosophy of this club.
I mean, I'm speaking from experience here, and the reason why I wanted to tease that out as a little bit is those who know me will know I'm quite opinionated, and similar to yourself in terms of this is how we play and we die by the sword. I've recently inherited a group who are fantastic going forward. However, we started the season with 12 players on the education program, and 3 of those were goalkeepers. Trying to field a team with 2 goalkeepers playing out of position and still being effective ultimately changed my philosophy and the way that we wanted to play. However, if we're in a position where we get to recruit, then again, I suppose it depends on the things at your disposal. Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess so. And I mean that's a sort of extreme version where you've got 3 goalkeepers and like 12 players. That's an extreme version. I've probably never been in that scenario, but like there is times in our system where I think the under 13s might be a good example, where they've gone 11v11. We've probably only got maybe 14 players in that age group, 13, 14 players in that age group, and we have 3 goalkeepers in that group, and one of them would ideally play up. But we would just challenge him by playing the goalkeeper outfield and by developing technique and developing his footwork, and keeping the philosophy. I was going to use the word rigid, but not rigid. The same. Don't use the word rigid. Keep the philosophy the same. So yeah. I mean, listen. Do you watch the High Performance podcast?
Yes, superb.
Did you watch Storm with Clive Woodward?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I listened to it more so with driving to and from work, but yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? He's an interesting fella. One thing I took away from, well, loads of things I took away from that, but one thing he said, he was talking about when they turn up early, wasn't he? Lombardy time. Did you listen to that?
Yes. Yeah.
And within that, he made a little passing comment about how it wasn't a democracy and it was his team, but he would still have a democracy, and he would make the final decision on it. I understand. I can sort of I can understand that. I understand what he means by that, and by coming in here, one of the things I probably wanted to do the most, obviously, I want to come in and have an impact, but I want to come in and stick to what I believe in. Like, I think that's really important. Having this way of playing and having this way, I think that develops players. By the way, I think it's important that I sort of stick to my guns on it.
Yeah, and look, that's what makes us great as coaches, I think, is the fact that we probably all see the game similar in some ways, but ultimately see it differently.
Yeah,
and I think the fact that if you're able to believe in what you do and apply that, then, and again, I'm saying this for any aspiring coaches out there, don't always think you have to always change your philosophy. If you believe in something, stick by it. And one thing I would probably offer advice to is question everything. Question everything and get answers and get better understanding and knowledge to then help you to help the players.
Without a doubt.
For me, that's been superb, and it leads me on nicely to sort of the next sort of question, is that halfway through your role at Guildford and you know, the multitude of tasks you took on there, you then became a coach mentor with the FA. What interested you in becoming a mentor?
So I did. I was quite lucky at the college in terms of it was like a 9 to 5 really. Like everything was during the day, and there was no weekends work. And I'd come out of an environment where we did weekends, we did obviously evenings. So to go into that environment, and I had my evenings free, and I didn't really know what to do with them. So like that role came up. I liked the idea of going into grassroots and working and supporting grassroots coaches. I thought that was it's something I hadn't done, and I hadn't really engaged with grassroots coaching probably since my early 20s. So like to get an opportunity to go back to that environment was some of that came up, and obviously I took it and went and did it. And I must admit, the first 2 years of mentoring was really, really enjoyable. Like really, really enjoyable. Like it was being involved within that side of the game with essentially mums and dads and helping them on their journey was great. And it sort of linked in well as well, by the way, to my tutoring at the college, because all the clubs were in my area, and there were clubs that we were getting players from. So then for me to go back into those clubs and do that as well was good. It was really good.
How much did you learn as a coach by being a mentor?
It's a good question. You certainly learn. What you do learn is to get your ideas across, or not your ideas, but to give feedback. That's probably the thing I probably learned the most, because if you just go straight in and give your opinion or whatever, it's probably not gonna sit well with a dad or a mom who's doing that and giving up their free time to do that. So learning to give feedback appropriately and learning to do it over a series of weeks and months, rather than just bang, this is how it looks, this is how we're going to do it, was probably the biggest thing I've learned. And by the end of it, having you want to change it, you don't want to change it, but you want to have that impact. You're like, you see someone do a session and you're like, we could change all of that session and we could do all of this. And that's just not realistic really for a dad who's been at work till 7 o'clock and has come on to deliver a session at 7:30. So just try and find ways we can tweak it that would enable it to develop its ball rolling time, develop its engagement, develop its sort of like sense of fun, and without and having as little impact on sort of like how he feels, I guess, as well, how she feels.
I think one thing I certainly took from the mentoring, and you alluded to it there, is that feedback process. It's not us on that journey. It's us supporting that journey. So a good friend of mine, Lee Garlick, came up, had a quote a couple of years ago for a mentor day that, it's like mentoring is like taking a driving test. You can be with them on the lessons, but you can't take the test for them. And when it comes to coaching, it is how they see the game of where they are in their pathway. Maybe just because we might be a little bit further on that pathway, and look, we may know more, we know may less. Sorry. It's therein. I think for me, it was understanding who they are, why they're there, and then building that platform and that report from there.
Yeah.
So you've got your tutoring role at the college, your mentoring role. Some would say you're quite a busy man. Why then was it that you became a tutor with the FA as well as the mentoring?
So I'd worked with that was a one where like I'd worked. I worked with a couple of tutors at the college who'd come in and delivered the level 1s and level 2s, and I generally helped with those. And that was a one where like it just seemed like the next thing really. Like I seemed like the next thing to do. I'd done the mentoring, it was enjoyable, but I just wanted to get into the tutoring, and I wanted to sort of start delivering level 1s and level 2s. So I sort of went through that process, which was it was a hard process, like to go through. And when I was at the college, that role was a lot easier to do than when I'm at this job as an academy manager. That it's become like, obviously I left the mentoring in the transition, and it just became like you can't do the mentoring while you obviously at the academy. You don't have the time, and the tutoring is a lot harder, a lot harder, because I would have Saturdays and Sundays free at the college generally, whereas I don't have the sort of the luck of having that here.
So, like with many coaches that you and I and people listening will know, we jiggle often more than one role. Yeah. How important then is it to not get blurred lines with those roles and be more effective in each role?
Yeah, good question. That's a good question.
And how do we go through that process? Because obviously we're learning as human beings to stay in those lanes. But I suppose in a way, the roles that you had in terms of the coaching, tutoring, and the mentoring would blur at times. But how did you manage your time taking so many roles on and keep yourself sane?
I don't know. I don't think I did. I honestly don't think I did. I think like that's probably one of the things I need to be better at is like sort of it consumes you, doesn't it? Football, like, and it consumes all my time. I mean, I love it obviously and I enjoy it, but like certainly when I did those roles, they did fit together quite well. They certainly did fit together quite well. Just busy, just like I maybe have a day off. I try to have like Sundays off, but just trying to sort of manage it. The tutoring, certainly the tutoring went very closely and worked very well with what I was doing at the college. Because essentially at the college, I coached and I delivered the coaching provision. So everything sort of fitted together in terms of that, except probably the learners that I delivered it to, from adult learners with the FA and kids and the under 18s or 16 to 19s at the college, which is, it's so different in terms of delivery, like so different in terms of their engagement and how they are on the program. But I just got by. I think I just got by. I mean, you yourself, you did it as well, didn't you? Like the mentoring.
Yeah. So my time with the mentoring scheme, it was 4 years, but I had a full-time job, a coaching role, looked after a grassroots club, and I think looking back, it's one of the questions I like, because I don't know how I did it.
Yeah,
I really don't know how I did it at the time.
But probably just on autopilot.
Yeah, a lot of late night, and I must warn anybody that's thinking about taking more than one role on, you've got to put late nights in.
Yeah.
It starts, and again, going back to the High Performance Podcast, have you listened to the Eddie Hearn one?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
I won't ruin it too much, but that's a fantastic insight into somebody who's seen as, as big bravado, and somebody who can basically take anything on. Was that he was driven from a young age to work hard, go to sleep, get up, and if that wasn't working, go to bed an hour later, get up an hour early, and work for that day as hard as you possibly can. And I think that's why he's so successful. But we only see the success; we don't see what's underneath it. And I think there's a lot of sacrifice that has to be done in order to be successful. Which leads me on nicely, and I'm getting quite good at this. It leads us to where we are now. But why then? You're in. I'd probably say you sound like you were in a good place in terms of the roles that you did have. Why then Aldershot Town as academy manager? What interested you with that, and was it an exciting role to maybe take on?
So like, I'd worked in the area for like 6 years, so 2012 2018, and the role sort of came up. I'll be honest, I probably stayed at the college 2 years too long, and I'd become comfortable. I've become really comfortable, like, and I'm not, and people who will know me will know exactly what I mean by this. I'm not someone who does well in comfort. Like, I need to be challenged. I need to be uncomfortable, and that'll sort of drive me on. So the time come to sort of, I knew it was time to leave and time to move on. What that was, I knew it had to be a managerial role of some sort. It had to be a sort of senior role of some sort. So like, the role had come up with Aldershot, and I'd lived in the area, and I'd known what Aldershot had been through, certainly from 2012 to from when it sort of went in administration, went out the Football League, and lots of academy managers had gone in and tried and been there for whatever, a year, maybe 12, 18 months. So I was reluctant at first, and like, I'd sort of chucked the CV in, thinking I'll go and see what it's like. And there was the CEO there was a lady who worked in the FA, and she was great. And I'd obviously met the vice chairman and stuff, and I went in about 3 times to meet them, just to see. And I probably went in. I went and did the interview, and then I went back in with and sort of had questions and stuff like that I wanted to ask and wanted to see. And I knew I was going to take it. I probably knew I was going to take it, but there was that little bit in my head, like, about like stability, and I was comfortable in that environment. And I'm glad I took it in the end. Like, I'm really glad I took it in the end. But it was a difficult decision, sort of, at the time. But yeah, I'm glad I took it.
You say that it was a difficult decision, and you went back in 2 or 3 times. Can I delve a little bit deeper in what sort of assurances and what questions were asked as to why you needed that to take the role?
So I think, like, the first thing, like, coming in, there was the 9 to 16s and the 16s to 23s. Well, there wasn't the 23s, 16s to 18s, was all separate, and I wasn't sure at first with that, and then the sort of the role was to oversee it, A lot of people had been there for, a lot of the staff had been there through the time of and was appointed by the sort of the last two academy managers sort of thing. So that was on my mind, and the sort of the stresses that I would need to come in on my own. And that's a big change, by the way. That's not a change even I've made. That's a change the club have made, where they're like, this guy's going to come in, and instead of it being 9 to 16s and then 16s to 19s, he's going to come and oversee the lot. That was a big change for the staff to sort of see. And I was going to go in, and a friend of mine two friends of mine were going to come in with me, who I'd worked with. One I'd met playing, both I'd met coaching with, and they both come in with me in the end, and that sort of helped me make that transition, certainly into the club. And do you know what? In hindsight, I'd have done it without him. I'd have done it anyway. I was just that, there was that sort of thing in my head of like mortgage, flat, like car, stuff, and like you do this jump and then it don't work out, and then what? Do you know what I mean? So that was probably the biggest thing that put on my mind. But I've become a lot more chilled since going in and stuff.
So quite a big and possibly daunting prospect in front of you with these changes being made with staff that are already in there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say how hard. What difficulties, if any, did you find by going in as a new academy manager in terms of retaining and keeping staff ultimately happy, but then engaged and focused to buy into this project that you were taking on board?
Yeah. I think like I went in, like I touched on the last one. I went in very different to what I'm right now. Like I probably went in quite like I had to go in really. Like even to say I went in. This is what it's going to look like. Like this is how we're going to do it. And that ranged from like training times, training program, philosophy, like everything. And was there push? There was push, but it was hard. It was, of course, but you're going to expect it to be, aren't you? Like staff are going to be like, and of course they're going to be like, yeah, like what's this? He's obviously a new guy coming in, like flexing his muscles and stuff. Like that's what they're going to think, aren't they? And then the parents have probably seen 3 or 4 academy managers come in the last like 2 years. So like, oh, here we go again. Like he's another one. And then they're definitely thinking, is he going to be here for long? Is that what it's going to look like? So is he going to come in and make these changes? And then are we going to be expecting changes again? But like, I'm the type of person, once I get into something and I can see the end, like I won't stop. Like I want to get to the end. I want to see what it looks like. So like the first 6 months to a year were tough. Like I worked a lot. I probably worked a lot on different things in terms of like admin, putting things in place. That was really challenging. And then you eventually start getting, I guess we probably don't have as many staff from that point to now as you'd think. I think we've probably got two in terms of lead coaches, which is okay. But like the ones that have come in and they're still here. Do you know what I mean? Some majority still here. Once you get that, and you, like I said to you before, you start recruiting staff who are going to deliver your philosophy and buy into what you're doing before they're even in the building. That's sort of like makes things a lot easier. A lot easier.
So we're now sort of 2 years since you've taken it all. Just talk to us a little bit about when you went in. What did you have, and how did it look? And obviously, I'm quite privy to probably a little bit more information than people who haven't spoken to you before. But I know how much you've grown the academy. Where are you now, and what does it look like in terms of from 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think like I think it's important. Like the foundations were there. Obviously, like that's probably something you have to highlight. Like it wasn't coming in and you weren't ripping it apart. Like anything you do. Like that's like anything, but like the concerning thing was the difference in age groups and how everything was just. It was dependent on a lead essentially. Since what you'd find a lot as you from Mexico, like when you went into your mentor and stuff. But that was probably the big thing. But what does it look like now? We have a philosophy. We do a lot more, or we try and do a lot more for staff. I'd say probably the best way to summarize it, or what it looks like in terms of, for me, when I came in, I felt like I was in charge, and I felt like this is mine. I don't feel that anymore. I feel like part of the group, and I just feel like a member of staff. Like, and I think that I mean that in like I obviously go to work, but like we're all in it together, and I don't feel like the lead. I don't feel obviously I might have to make decisions or have a final say on certain things, but ultimately the best thing I just feel like one of the members of the team. That's probably the biggest difference between coming and being in, and then trying to get that philosophy through the club. It probably looks a lot better than it certainly did when you start, because people don't buy into it. You've got to try and get people to buy into it.
That's something that interests me that we touched on earlier in the conversation, is that you now start. You've mentioned that the biggest thing that you had from being the academy manager is understanding the leadership, delegate more. You probably have more staff to lean upon. So how do you develop a philosophy that develops your staff? Because you're telling us here that you've come in and something was a bit disjointed, and you're now pulling in the right direction with the academy going forward. How have you managed to get the staff to buy into that, and how do you make them feel valued, but get them to do what it is that you want?
Well, for the first thing, like even though I'd probably say I am firmer. Like this is the philosophy. Like I think that's really, really important. Like, and we certainly would sort of assess that. But like, I think the best way to feel, I'm learning, and I'm not like, I'm not the best at it, by the way, is to try and care. Like try and show that you care, and like I'm part of the group, and I'm part of the team. Like I'm not someone who turns up and sort of like points and tells people to do this and do that. Like I go in and I coach under 18s and like I'll set sessions up, and I'll be there to like offer advice, and if my under 10s coach needs an assistant for the weekend, I'd always sort of offer myself to go and do that. And like I think trying to be part of it and trying to show I care and trying to show that I'm here to help is probably the best thing I've learned about leading people, like leading people. And it doesn't feel like, and because of that, it doesn't massively feel like I'm leading people. Does that make sense? It does. Yeah.
I think there's a difference between management and leadership. And for me there, I suppose quite early on in the role as academy manager, you open yourself to a bit of vulnerability, really, I suppose, by going from your academy manager to saying, right, I'm leading the under 18s, so you're now going to see, and look, please don't take this in a wrong way, but any flaws as a coach are going to be shown, and you open yourself up for maybe a bit of criticism from other staff. However, I suppose that shows you're still human. And then they will then understand, well, you know, he's human, and you're not that boss, that manager, that sort of dictatorship, and it's an open environment. And what I'm trying to get is how much would you say that the environment has played a part in terms of the development of Aldershot Town Academy?
It must have, because that links into the kids as well, doesn't it? If we as staff, the staff at the club, at the academy, are extremely reliable, extremely hardworking, and extremely thoughtful. And I think that leads in to the kids, doesn't it? Like that's going to lead into the kids. The culture we have amongst the staff, I think, is great. Like I think it's really, really good. And but it could be better though. It could be better. Like, it can always be better, can't it? It can always be better.
Yeah.
And I imagine someone will come in and be critical of it and stuff. I guess people can always do that. But I think it could be better. And I think like there's still things I'm not. I think certainly can always improve, and things we don't 100%. We don't always get right. But like, mate, it's that thing that I'm happy for the kids to make mistakes. We're going to learn through mistakes. I can do the same for the staff, and I can therefore do the same for myself, can't I?
I mean, it's seen as the pinnacle, isn't it? You know, academy coaching. It's a fantastic role to have. Can you just tell us a little bit about the work that, or maybe extra hurdles that you as Aldershot have to go through, have been or operating outside of the EPPP?
Yeah.
Not
so
being
like
within that 92 league format.
Yeah, which would be nice. I think like well, there's loads of challenges on that. Like one of the biggest challenges is probably we're elite. The first team are elite. The first team are professional. And if you sign with the first team, you're a professional footballer, essentially, a professional contract. But what happens below that doesn't sit with that. Does that make sense? So like we get kids who want to be professional footballers and want to go into that environment, but we don't have the EPPP standards. We don't have the EPPP audit. We don't get that. So we essentially have to do it ourselves, really. Like the under-19s get a National League audit because we're part of that new National Academy League system. 18s down to 9s don't get that. So we're essentially auditing ourselves, really, and trying to ensure what we do is good practice, safe, without that sort of thing over there. Whilst the expectations of everybody are like, well, they're a professional football club, so they should have those standards. But yet we necessarily don't get the luxury of the support from the league, if that makes sense.
So, absolutely. And one thing I'm quite keen to ask, and apologies if this sounds out of tune, how do you now then, by not working in what is classed as an elite coaching environment, how do you stop your staff from getting comfortable?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we obviously do peer reviews. That's something we're trying to do more of. But I would probably say, like, even though we do peer reviews anyway, like, and it sounds like obviously you think as a review is like a sheet of paper. But if I coach, I'll walk off and I'll go to Ross White. I'll go, how was that? What do you think about that? Like, so that exists anywhere, and we're constantly sort of. I guess me and Ross are probably the best example in terms of like we're constantly challenging each other and arguing sometimes, but not all the time. And but it's good, like, and it's good to be like that, and it's good to have like if I say something, he'll always ask why, he'll always question it, and likewise him, and I think we do a lot of that within the staff. But it's like it's within a good environment as well. It's not like we're going around and, you know, I was a teacher, and teacher observation I was never a fan. I'm never a fan of someone getting a grade 1 and doing this all singing, all dancing session, and 99 out of 100 sessions they don't look like that and they don't do that. So our observation and feedback to each other is more informal, like that, really, like within all of the sessions that we do, constantly questioning, but we're close as well. I think we're very close. Like if you'd have asked me this 2 years ago, I'd have said probably thinking of my staff as sort of friends and like that, I'd have said, don't be daft. Like, I can't have a relationship. I'm the manager. I don't feel like that anymore. I just don't feel like that anymore. I just see them as my colleagues. I see them as people who I want to help, and then that barrier straight away is easier to speak to people and talk to people, isn't it? Like, if something's not working, that's the conversation we have.
What's changed then, Ross? What has changed from being this manager who was, as we've mentioned, live and die by the sword, to now being, I'm not going to say relaxed because that's probably the wrong word, but this person who is probably more holistic and values and supports their staff more. What's changed? What is there one particular moment, or would you say that it's just personal growth that helps you create that environment?
Like we were talking with Steve Salas earlier. Steve Salas has a big impact. I think he's had a huge impact on how I think and how I see, because it's just so simple, isn't it? And so much common sense. So I think stuff like Steve and reading different things like I've read like obviously different books like Legacy and stuff like that has had such a big impact on me. Like, and don't get me wrong, like there's sometimes where like it can play on my mind, like why, and I'll be like, what am I doing? Like it don't matter. Like it just doesn't matter. Like we can fix that in the morning, or we can fix that through having a simple conversation. Like probably before, when I first came in, if someone was doing a session that didn't look like the philosophy, I'd probably, and we were talking about this before, I'd probably have it bothered me. I'd have went straight for it and I'd have had that conversation. I probably wouldn't do that now. I'd probably find a way to get them to believe into how I wanted it to be. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I'd take more time with it. And if it then wasn't working, then I'd look to make a decision, or to go for it. But I just think, like, what's stress? Like, what's the, like, you know what I mean? Like, we're all people. Like, I've done it. I've been in clubs and done different stuff and thought differently and tried to go off thingy. So like, if I've done it, I've got to then try and understand other people are going to do it and why they're doing it and why they do it. So like, I would have probably had sleepless nights before. I wouldn't anymore. I try and sort of work with them and see what we can do to help them.
And do you find that then gets more buy-in and more conversations flowing from your staff, that now you're probably more open to that chat? And look, again, I don't want to speak out of terms, because you may have been open to the chat then, but maybe not willing to because of the status of academy manager.
Yeah.
Does it? I'm going to try and word this in a way. Does it necessarily make you look bad if your staff become more efficient or better than you, or does that make you a better manager by creating better people?
The second one, without a doubt. But I'd have thought the first one before, because there's that just ego in it, and it's just that how comfortable are you with yourself? But if you've got a member of staff who are going above and beyond, and it's, by the way, they're still doing the philosophy, what they do still marries with what we're trying to get across. But you've got a member of staff who wants, and we're not saying he's doing things differently or she's doing things differently, but they want to do more and they want to have a bigger impact. What to stress? Surely
that should be celebrated rather than
the kids are going to get better. The kids are going to get better, and if the kids are going to get better and the kids are happier, and I've got other staff who then go, oh, that's interesting. Why don't we? Do you know what I mean? Then that's great. I've got a friend who he owns a recruitment business, and he said, what's one of the biggest differences that you notice between what you do now and when I started as the academy manager and what I did when I first got on? I said, I probably make less decisions, and he said, perfect. Okay. And I said, that's probably the biggest difference I probably notice. Whereas everything at the beginning, I was decision, and it was like, and it was all on me essentially. And this, I don't really make any decisions. I've got staff who make decisions. It's great, isn't it?
I like how open you're being in terms of you ultimately putting more emphasis on your staff to drive this from the bottom up rather than squash from the top down, if that makes sense.
I'm trying to, by the way, because like
Trying
people are going to be watching this and go, "Oh yeah, it must be unbelievable what there." Like it's, I'm trying to, and I think about it, and I do think about it, and I think it's something I try and do. And do I get it right all the time? Probably not, and probably I might even have staff listening to this and go, "Hold on a minute, like you just not like this." But that's what I try and do, and that's what I think about, and like I'm certainly still quite far away from it, but hopefully I'm getting there.
Speaking quite deeply here now, and it is quite a deep question, is that we had a guest on, I think, in episode 2 who spoke about, and the real key point that came up for me was leave your ego at the door.
Yeah.
Now, it's something that you've mentioned there, and you're coming as a manager, and the ego comes with it. Yes, as coaches, we all have egos, but how important is it to have a little bit of an ego in terms of what you believe in, but also to leave it at the door, to buy into the environment you're in?
Yeah, I guess so. Like, but I think I'm probably going to be like a bit opposite, because obviously we talk about my philosophy, and I think it's really I'm still believing it, but in terms of how to deliver it, but like I think so. But then, like you said, you touched on it, an ego. It's good to have it in terms of how I want to play the game and how I see standards as well. By the way, so like even like how coaches are, like how they sort of conduct themselves. I think that's really. I'm a big believer in values. Like, but yeah, I guess so. I guess it is important to sort of massive. But it's that thing in it. Like you talk about vulnerability before. I'm probably more vulnerable now than when I started the job, even though I was probably vulnerable anyway. But I feel like it's more just part of me. I feel I'm just myself. That's probably the best way of describing it. I feel more like myself, like, and it's more enjoyable to go to work then, isn't it?
Of course, 100%. This is a difficult. I think it was a difficult question to write down and come up with. So it might be a difficult one to ask. But what is key, Ross, to creating, developing, and nurturing an environment for coaches and players alike to want to be part of Aldershot Town?
That's a good question. We like, why? It's got to be fun, hasn't it? Like it's got to be, people have got to want to be there. Like I always find it interesting, like when you read like a lot of like experienced coaches and talk about like how kids wanting to come back, kids wanting to be part of you want to do, and I think that leads in to having a sort of fun and engaging in a sort of environment in terms of what they're playing. It's a tough question, that, isn't it? What do you think on it?
I think certainly honesty. I think you've got to be honest with your staff, and one thing, and again for my growth this year, it's to have those difficult conversations. Yeah, those ones that you may usually 60-70% of the time swerve and think, just let that be, but then that drives your standards. Yeah, and if you're willing to let something go, and certainly the age group I work with now, if it goes for one player, another ego within the group will then go, well, I can get away with it, and then you might have a bit of a mutant onion. So I think honesty, and again, I think this came from one of the podcasts. If you never tell a lie and you're always honest, you never forget what you've said. So if you're honest with the player of what you see, you can't hide from that. Yeah. But and again, I'm going to go back to sitting on the fence, maybe with a bit of mentoring here. Of it depends. And I think for me, it depends on your environment, the people you work with, and the type of staff that you've got. And it's clear to see, and look, for the listeners, I've been very fortunate to come and see you work in your environment and the great staff you've got. So you've clearly got something that is key to getting that staff in. Yeah, putting that down on paper would look very messy, I believe.
Yeah, it would, and I'd probably be like, probably writing loads of different things and different buzzwords. But I think I'm just myself, and I think I do care. People like who maybe work with me. I don't know, might say different, but I do care. I do care about people. And like, if I'm ever in a board meeting or ever in a meeting with one of the directors, I'm always about the staff. Like, and that's all that really sort of. Yeah, it's all that really matters to me, really, because if they're doing well and they're going to do it, like the kids are well looked after, like well looked after. So if they're on board, it's such an easier thing. Like we have values obviously that sit through the academy, and I'm big on, if we're going to teach the players, it's important the staff for those things, and they're sort of driving those values. But yeah, I think. But back to your honesty, by the way, how much better is it managing a team of players when you have those honest conversations? And again, that's something I've become better at all recently. Yeah. It's much easier, isn't it? Much easier.
Yeah, and I certainly learned that through my journey in grassroots football. You know, looking after a club of 34 teams and nearly 400 players, you've got 2 parents per player and guardians who think their child is the most important one. So having maybe difficult conversations in terms of where they are and where you see them, because you get it at every level, don't you? Oh, my son, my daughter's too good, I'm going to move here. And sometimes you've got to have that conversation of, yes, maybe the team or the group isn't where it needs to be. We will get there.
Yeah.
If you want to be part of that journey, superb. If you don't, feel free to come off. But this is where we're going. And I think it comes back to, like you're saying there, your philosophy. This is where we're going.
Yeah.
If you want to get on this bus and this journey, superb. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be open, and this is where we're going. If you don't want to be, then maybe we're not for you. And look, you're not going to please everyone. If you want to please everyone, be an ice cream man.
Yeah. Yeah, but and it's on that other thing as well. Like probably like I might come across. You wouldn't come and work with us and sort of do anything you wanted though, and that's really key. But you get that buy-in. Mm-hmm. You get that buy-in when you're more welcoming. Like I always, again, I did learn this from my friend. Like I'm always quite when new staff starters like come in, enjoy coming in, make those mistakes, learn from making mistakes. Like if you need anything, just ask, and just sort of like we're here to support you as you come in. And that's generally my first conversation when people come and work for me. Get used to being at the club. Like any question, I don't want you to come in and like pressure. This. Yeah. We'll start to look at like KPIs and we'll start to look at appraisals. We'll do that down the line. Just that's not a stress in the first few weeks, months, maybe a month or 2, whatever.
Just get yourself accustomed and be you.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And like we've got, without a doubt. I just don't like, and as a manager of those people, like I can't be putting that pressure on people. Like if he'd been there for 2 years. And he was then not doing what he wanted to do, then that's something we need to sort and something we need to manage. But when you first come in, just come in and make mistakes, come in and enjoy being here. Learn what it's like to be part of our football club, and we'll go from there.
Sounds a great environment, Ross. And a couple of things that I want to touch on before we go into the quick fire question round and maybe put you under a little bit of pressure, is that you've spent a lot of time teaching, tutoring, coaching. Are they one and the same, or is coaching and teaching different?
Oh, I'm gonna fluff this. I've got asked this question so many times. I think teaching and coaching are so similar. Like just in terms of I know obviously if you're probably teaching, you think about being in the classroom, and coaching, you think about being on a pitch. But in terms of getting something across and getting kids to want to learn, or people to want to learn and want to engage, that's probably why it makes it so similar for me. Like coaching is something I certainly enjoy more than teaching, but that's probably only because I like football. Do you know what I mean? So like I like being on the pitch. Yeah, there's a footy involved. You get to kick the ball around. So like that's probably the big. That's the big difference. But for me, they're so similar, if not one and the same. I just think coaching is a form of teaching, just out on the pitch. And you'd probably like, if you read into your Guardiolas and and your top, and we look at the adult side of the game, like Pochettino and Marine, the teachers, aren't there? They're like sort of like like field philosophers who are like in using the game as that's where I think you can certainly see the sort of like the similarities. Yeah.
Superb. Great answer. And thank you for not sitting on the fence there, because I knew it would be very easy to say and sit on the fence. So I appreciate your honesty with that.
What do you think? What's your thoughts? Do you think they're one of the same, or do you think they're different?
I think it's tough. I think these blurred lines.
You're going to sit on the fence, aren't you?
I am going to sit on the fence. Yeah. Coaching, I think, is more dynamic. Teaching. Yeah. I would, if I was to describe teaching as maybe, and as you mentioned, that classroom based stuff. Coaching, but coaching isn't always on the field. Coaching can be in a classroom, and I think with coaching, you're coaching a game or a specific thing, and there's a wide range of it. With teaching, it's a certain topic. So I think within coaching, you do teach. Yeah. But then I would say with coaching, there is a little bit more to it than teaching. If that takes me off the fence.
But and that's one of the things with teaching. A lot of people see teaching as like, and it's because you've got exams and it's like a means to an end in it. And it's like that's one of the teachers are there, and the best teachers I met. So there's a lady called Kim Hyde. I don't know. She works at the FA. She does the tutor stuff. And I've been in a classroom with her, and it's not like it's teaching, but it's just so enjoyable, and how good she is at that room. It's how it should be really, like how it should be. Like teaching is about making kids want to learn, isn't it? Not what to learn.
That's a great point, and it puts a wry smile on my face, because I think that's a whole topic in itself. It's teaching them what to learn, not what they want to learn. And again, I think there's similarities, and I think it then depends on your topic and your coaching program. But ultimately, for me, and I'm going to be a bit platonic here, is that we're trying to develop better people. Yeah, and I think the power we have through football certainly is to create good people. And if we can go on and create from one player, create a coach who then creates 10 players, who then creates 10 coaches. Yeah. We then go into what the mentoring system is, and we create that legacy. And one thing that I want to credit Steve Sallis for is that light bulb moment that came to me. Yeah. When listening to him speak, was that don't be a downgrade. Yeah. There was another quote that I really like, and excuse the terminology here, don't be a dick. I think that's really powerful. Yeah. But don't be a downgrade. So it's very easy to go in and I suppose you could experience that as well, having followed 2-3 academy managers and be that downgrade. Yeah. You were very self-conscious of what people might think. Oh, we've had previous academy managers. How long is he going to be here? Well, clearly you're not being a downgrade with what you've got now in terms of the 18s and the 23s and that link to the first team. So again, don't be a downgrade. That's what drives me. Yeah. No, and linking on to that, by the way, it also drives me to leave this in the best position possible, so that the next person who comes in isn't a downgrade, and he takes it on and makes it better. That's really, really important to me. Yeah, without a doubt. Like if I leave this, when whatever's next for me or wherever I go, if I leave and look in 3 years' time, it's flying, and the person's gone and took it even further. That to me is perfect. I was part of that. I was part of it, and I enabled that. But that's really important that they can go and do that. Oh, superb, and quite motivational. I think hearing that back now is that if we can not be that downgrade, we aspire others to be better, and I'm sure you'll do that with your staff. One thing that I'm very keen on, having spoke with yourself off air previously, is that Aldershot Town has such a strong feel in the community, and obviously with the military background that's in there. How important is it not only to build that relationship with the local community, but maintain it? Yeah, it's vital, and it's something we work on in the background to try and do. So like even just going to do talks and free sessions and
being part of the after school club program and the summer camp provision. Like we're part of that really. It's Aldershot is a working class town, which is where we're similar to where I was sort of brought up, but like it's vital to keep it going. But on the other side of that though, the feel in the town when I came in of the club and of the sort of academy really, was I think quite a negative one. And I think over time, through that work and through even just having better provision for under fives, under sixes, and sort of linking into all that is sort of helped our grounding in the area really. So like, yeah, I mean, we say it for Aldershot Town, but any club and any academy, like really, like the community should be certainly not at the forefront, but certainly in and around what they're thinking about in terms of development in the academy.
Last sort of question for me then is that lockdown has clearly had an effect on the youth being able to play sports. Is there any major differences you've seen in your players upon their return, but be physically, psychologically, socially?
So before lockdown, we were starting to do more on mental health, and we didn't do enough, and we still don't do enough. And we were doing some workshops, and we got some people coming to speak to the kids. Obviously we've done stuff over lockdown. We have a girl, a psychologist who works. She's been doing some mental health workshops and different one-to-ones and stuff with the players. But the players, certainly obviously because I work with the older players more day to day, the impact on their mental health and them being in isolation, and certainly like even just like something as simple as like the gyms being closed. Like the kids will train with us and then they want to go to the gym with their friends on a night or whatever that looks like. So the ability to not do that and has become really noticeable, certainly in the older players. And so for example, this week we start. So we got boys who stay in host families, and it must be so tough for them in particular. So we've started doing like just host family sessions, so like where they come in and go to the gym. We'll go because we've got a gym at the school, and come in and I might play a bit of FIFA or something together. So just trying to sort of keep them engaged out. But the mental health and the kids coming out, it's been noticeable. And I think modern day and common, they're good at talking about how they feel. They're better than I certainly was when I was their age. And that's not all of them, by the way. That's not all of them, by the way, because some of them are still like typical like teenage boys, but they are better, and some of them are very open about it, which is great. Which is obviously great. So that's probably one of the biggest, the most noticeable things, really.
What does the future hold then for Aldershot Town Academy and yourself, Ross? Or is it still uncertain because of the current situation?
We're all right. We'll be all right. Because of what's obviously the pandemic and stuff. Like, sort of, you just want to get back. I just want to get back and get into that sort of what we were into the flow of it being an academy and the feel of it being an academy. I think that's probably the most important thing. That's all that's at the forefront. That's all I'm thinking about, really. Getting it back and going, which we will, and then getting the football going, really. But like long term, like long term, obviously promotion would be lovely, so it can go on HLP. But just getting better, like making sure it's better, like tightening things up, like doing more staff CPDs, which obviously we've got one coming up, and just trying to sort of make sure the things that we're doing within it and the delivery and the content is all better, really.
Before we head into our quick fire question rounds, what advice would you give to any coaches listening to the podcast?
That's a good question. The advice I'd give to a coach: stick to what you believe in. That's been the theme, hasn't it? So let's stick to what you believe in. I think that's really important. The amount of people the amount of like I think people who come and I do obviously meet a lot of people who have philosophies and stuff, but I think it's really important if you've got a philosophy or if you've got something you believe in or something that you want to see through or implement. I think it's important that you sort of like stick to what you believe in, really. I could have said loads of stuff. I could have said loads to like read. Obviously, read, go and watch coaches. Like that type of stuff. That's like you said, ask questions, be challenged, all that type of stuff. But for me, like what sticks out to me is like is stick to what you believe in. Like stick to I like the game. Like I said to you before, I think football is a beautiful game, and I think it should be played in that manner.
So an extra question that I've just sorry to keep you. How hard can it be then for any coaches listening who have a way of playing, but may be dismissed because of experience, age, or standing in the game? What advice would you give to just maintain that?
Yeah, well, you got hard work, persistence. Persistence is probably key. I think that's important. It takes time though. Like I think a lot of people, it's like the youngsters, isn't it? They're in a rush, aren't they? They're in a rush, and everyone wants to jump to the next thing. It's like I got this job when I was like 30, 33, 34, and the things take time. Like there's a quote is like be impatient in the short term and patient in the long term. Like I think it's really, really important that people are patient. Things take time. It's not going to happen if you're 18, 19, like 20, 21, 22. Things are going to take time. And people are on different sort of. I've got people who work for me who have played for me under 18s in the 19, 20. We've also got people in their 50s. Mark won't like me saying that because he'll know that's what I know. I'll definitely made in, but.
No, superb. And again, I think there's a lot to take from that, and I've no doubt that there's going to be some gems from this. And look, the reason for this podcast, Ross, is that football's tough, especially when you're breaking into it. And if we can help or motivate or inspire any potential coaches who are at that point of thinking, I've had enough of rejection. As you say, there, persistence key, and believe in what you do.
I still get rejected now. Like we'd get rejected now. I'd get rejected now. It makes like just stick at it. Like if it's something you're enjoying, something you see you're doing long term, like I'd say, what's the rush? Like certainly if you're in your 20s, like people, that's another thing that people are in their 20s. Like I've got boys now, like staff who are in their 20s. I've got to get my air license. Like you're 20, like you're 24, 25, like you got another 35 years to go. Like what's the rush? What's the stress? Like take your time.
We're here for a good time, not a long time, mate.
Yeah.
Right, this is the bit that I enjoy the conversation, but I do enjoy putting our guests on the spot a little bit. So, quick fire questions. They're not always quick fire, so feel free to elaborate if you want to. But who's the best coach that you've seen work?
Like live. Live.
Or shall I rephrase that? Has there been a coach where you've seen live and gone, wow? I've got one.
Jim Kelman. I'll say Jim Kelman. Jim Kelman is someone I've seen. He's a coach educator. I think watching him work with young players, excellent. I could have said loads of people there, by the way. I was going to say Dick Bate, but I haven't seen him live. I've only seen like YouTube and stuff.
Okay, fantastic. Who's your best friend in football?
So probably one of my best friend in football. I'd go Cy Collins, probably from Leeds. We went to uni together.
No way. Cy's on my youth award.
Really?
Advanced youth award. Yeah.
No way. Have you spoke to him?
Yeah, he's going to come on as I need to get questions over to him. But yeah, that's how small a world are we in?
No way. So me and Cy, I've known Cy 15 years, 16 years.
Right,
so
okay.
Yeah, and I speak to Cy pretty much every day. He's someone you should get on, by the way, and I 100% should get on.
Well, I'm gonna ask you to drop a little bit more of a push to him. He was a little bit resistant at first, but I do need to get some questions over to him.
I'll ring him after this. I'll get him on. But I've known Si a long time, and he'll probably, because I didn't answer him in the first question, he'll probably be annoyed at that. But I haven't seen him coach in ages. But he is someone that classes as sort of a good friend in football.
Great guy. Who's been your toughest opponent as a coach?
Donovan Chislett, Met Police. I think the way they play the game, I think things very similar. I think very similar to myself, and he does their under 18s, so it's hard to play against them. Even though he plays exactly the same as you, it's hard to play against them. So like I would definitely say Donovan.
Best player you've coached?
2, Harry Taylor, Reece Wiley. Both for different reasons, but Harry Taylor, Reece Wiley. Harry Taylor's now a pro at Charlton. Reece is a pro on our first team. Both come for our under 18s. Both excellent. I couldn't separate them.
Super. Okay, I'll let you off with that one. Best moment in football to date?
Best moment in football to date. So like, Harry Taylor getting a pro and at Charlton, and that probably makes it look like we're just in it to get pros. Don't think we're not in it to do that. But he's such a good kid, and he's such a nice person, and the things he went through with us at the under 18s, to see him then get that, amazing. Like it couldn't have happened to a better kid.
Superb. What's been your biggest wow moment?
I get them all the time. Like, what am I doing? Like, I'm so miles off. Probably, do you know what? Like, if I'm looking at it like a part of my life, it'll be going to Sunderland. Going to Sunderland and moving home for me made me go, this is what I want to do. Yes. So that, in particular, that moment in my life, 100%.
That was a different answer compared to previous guests, where it's usually been a moment of genius or there. So I quite like that. I like the fact that it was where, and we said earlier in the call, it was a chance for you to review and reflect, and that's been your biggest wow moment of, this is what I want.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Who's been your biggest role model or influence in football?
Oh, I've got 2 as well. So I'm going to say. I'm going to say. So I'll say Si, because Si's been, like, we speak all the time, like, and even if it's just via text or a little catch up, he was, in terms of how I thought about the game initially, certainly around 27, 28, very helpful, and someone not in football was the head of sport at Merris Wood, a guy called Dave Osborne. He's a pro golfer. Just in terms of making me think about development and that care for the kids, and even the psychological side, very good with psychology. I thought he was excellent in terms of my development as a leader or as a sort of person.
Fantastic. Now, this is probably the most difficult one. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh God, hard working. I think I work quite. I think people.
We class that as one.
Do we class that as one? Yeah, class that as one. Yeah. Passionate. I'm quite a passionate person. Certainly in terms of like football. I was gonna say stubborn. Stubborn, but I'm gonna say. But I could spin it and say persistent, but I'd say stubborn.
Okay.
I know what I like.
Well, it makes decisions easier for you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone you would recommend or like to hear on the podcast?
Steve Salas would be great. If you can get Steve on, I would fully recommend that. But I would say get Si on. I think the way Si sees the game and the way he thinks about the game, it would be good to hear what he says. But Steve Salas as well.
I'm going to pester both not long after this. Ross, look, we chatted off air for about 20 minutes before the call, and I'm sure we could chat for another hour. But I just want to say thank you, a massive thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. I can imagine you're a busy man with the return to football, touch wood, coming just next week. Obviously, by the time this podcast is out, we will be back. So I hope that everything is going well for you by the time this comes out. I hope you and the family stay safe and everything goes well with Aldershot. And fingers crossed we're back in and, up and running sooner rather than later.
Thank you, and just like to say, like what you're doing, like the podcast, and that's excellent, like really good. Like it's like you said at the beginning, it's getting that out there and getting information, helping like up and coming coaches come through the game. So like keep doing it, It's really, really good, and sort of keep an eye out for more episodes, no doubt. But like, well done on it, definitely.
No, super. I appreciate that. It's very high praise, buddy. And look, we're just here to try and help, as I say, inspire or motivate, or just take up an hour whilst you're driving. So all good things. But again, superb, mate. Again, hopefully we'll keep in touch and we'll see you soon. And when travel's allowed, I'll more than no doubt be giving you a call to come and see you again.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Something. Speak soon, pal.
Bye-bye.
Hello, we're Tile Central UK, local tile stockist here on Trentham Trade Park, Stanley Matthews Way. Our opening hours are 8 till 5 in the week and Saturdays till 12.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy the content that we're trying to bring to you. Don't forget, new episodes will be released every Monday. You can find us on the iTunes Store, Spotify, and if you want to see the video, you can see it on our YouTube channel, PCT Football Coaching.